Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it's a pleasure to be here in CPAC. It's my first time in CPAC, and I'm so delighted to feel such a freedom of speech. So, Save the West, Protect the Border. The title sounds emotional, and I think borders have also to be approached from an emotional perspective. Because borders are also about our identities. Before coming to the stage, I was thinking, is the European Union really willing to protect its borders? And then I remember the DNA of the European Commission, and let's say the bureaucrats preparing the regulations in Brussels. Their DNA is to remove borders. Their DNA is to lift border controls and gradually to unify a zone where people, goods and everything can move. And also the bad guys, unfortunately, can move. And also illegal, undocumented migrants. So my answer is no, in fact. The European Union, the European Commission has not been able to get rid of this historic DNA of removing borders, even when the role of the European Union is to build and strengthen the so-called external border around the European Union, to protect European Union nations, to protect Europeans. I can tell you, I've been working as the Executive Director of the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, Frontex. And I can tell you that as an insider, I have experienced things that you cannot imagine. For example, my first meeting with the newly, freshly appointed European Commissioner in charge of migration and home affairs in October 2019, the Commissioner told me, "Why are you preparing uniforms and weapons for the European Border and Coast Guard Standing Corps?" And she added, "Because migrants come for love. So you don't need weapons, you don't need uniforms. Your job," and she was talking to me, "your job, whether you like it or not, is to welcome migrants. Because Europe is an aging continent, whether you like it or not, your job as a border guard is to let the migrants in." I was shocked. I can tell you other examples. There is in the Brussels bubble a kind of fake narrative that many people believe, even unfortunately sometimes national governments of EU member states, the media, the mainstream media. And this fake narrative is that it is allegedly not moral to protect the borders and to prevent migrants from coming to the European Union. They say that, these are the values of the European Union, and if you want to protect, if you want to check, and even if you want to tell somebody, "No, sorry, you're not allowed to come," they say this is very likely against the European values. So there is a kind of moral justification for that. But then this fake narrative can go one step further. If you listen to what has been recently said from, or said by the management of Frontex. The narrative is, it is, from an operational perspective, impossible to protect the borders and to check. So the only ambition we can have in the European Union is to count the number of illegal crossings, and if we are lucky, we can catch them and put their identity, what kind of identity, we don't know, but we can store some data in a database. And it's going to one step further, that NGOs, if for instance, this was my case, I denied everything and said, no, all this fake narrative is in fact not correct. And then they come to the legal ground and they tell you, but what you are doing is a pushback. The definition, the legal definition of a pushback doesn't exist. But they say, this is illegal. On the one hand, there is, in fact, a European regulation saying member states of the European Union shall prevent illegal crossings of the external border of the European Union. On the other hand, those NGOs with many people in the European Commission say, yeah, but if there is a group of 100, 200, 300 people trying to cross illegally the border, you never know if 1 or 5 or 10 of them perhaps are asylum seekers. So this is the kind of legal narrative that you can hear, but this is not correct, and there are other means to, in fact, properly address asylum. And let me tell you also that I have witnessed that this historic DNA of the European Commission, removing borders, deconstructing borders, now is becoming stronger and stronger because they are supported by the woke theory, the woke ideology. And what do they say? They say those people who want to protect the borders, in fact, they want to protect their nations. They want to protect their identity. Yeah, but what's wrong with our identities? I can give you a last example. When I was executive director of Frontex, I found out that a group of persons working for the agency had prepared a training manual for border guards. And I could not believe what I read in the first chapter. The first chapter was to welcome new staff of the European Border and Coast Guard. And this was about the fact that, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you have decided to be a border guard or a kind of policeman, there must be something wrong, because we know, and this is documented by scientists, that if you are a law enforcement officer, you might become violent, racist, etc., etc. But this woke chapter in the training manual said, if you listen to what NGOs and fundamental rights monitors say, then you will be protected against yourself. Of course, I decided to simply remove this chapter. But this is to show you that the woke theory, the woke ideology now is combined with this pro-migrants theory, and this is the way the European Union, and in particular the European Commission with NGOs, is now destroying our external borders. So what is the way forward? The way forward is that in June we have elections for the European Parliament. And I think that many parties, like Rassemblement National, French Rally, I'm running for, we will win a lot of seats. So the way forward is to send many many members of the European Parliament that want to fight against these illegal crossings, that want to fight against this woke ideology, so that again we can be proud of our identities, proud of our nations, proud of being Europeans, proud of our Western civilization. Thank you very much.